Zara, Uniqlo, and H&M popularized fast fashion. Their entire process, which includes brainstorming designs up until the products arrive in their stores, this process takes 1 month. But for SHEIN, this only takes 1 week, ushering the era of ultra fast fashion. From obscurity, SHEIN has already been valued at over $100 billion, overtaking Zara, H&M, and Uniqlo. And they did all that without having a single physical location. In this video, I talk about what SHEIN did that kickstarted its explosive growth, controversy, scandals, and the downsides of ultra fast fashion, and the origin story of SHEIN. If you want to skip to certain parts, the timestamps are in the description. My name is Chris. I talk about business ideas, how brands make money, and the origin story of brands. Welcome to Brand Origins. In July 2021, the US sales of SHEIN surpassed Zara and H&M, becoming the largest fast fashion retailer in the US. Despite Zara having 2,200 locations worldwide, H&M having more than 5,000, and Uniqlo having more than 3,500 stores, SHEIN managed to leapfrog its rivals even though it does not have a single physical location. And this played a role in its success, especially during the pandemic. And so when lockdown restrictions were activated all over the world, SHEIN could not care any less. So how were they able to do this? Well, you see, SHEIN sales, all of it, are done via its app and website. Now, on the surface, you may probably assume that, well, since SHEIN doesn't have any physical locations, that's one less thing to spend on. They don't have to spend on a long-term lease, upkeep, staff. Well, okay, that's a lot of money saved. But what you probably don't know is that the technology behind SHEIN's app and website, it's one of the most critical pieces that contributes to its success. Every time you visit SHEIN's app and website, data is collected. Are more people buying these types of shirts in this specific color? SHEIN uses this data to decide which products to produce next. But let me backtrack a little bit so that I can explain to you how SHEIN's process compares to Zara's, Uniqlo's, and H&M's. So Zara became one of the biggest fashion retailers in the world when they introduced fast fashion. So before Zara, there used to be fashion seasons. There's usually a set of products for each season. That's why once in a while, you would see signs saying, "End of season sale," plastered on stores. So what used to happen was brands would take a year to plan out next year's designs. When Zara introduced the fast fashion concept, they didn't need to take a full year to introduce designs. They started introducing items every few weeks, and sometimes it would take them just a little over a month. This kickstarted the popularity of fast fashion. And soon enough, other brands like H&M, Forever 21, Uniqlo, these brands did the same. Fast fashion was already considered as a major contributor to environmental waste. But then here comes SHEIN. SHEIN is considered to be in the ultra fast fashion category. If it takes Zara a full month to get its design from being a concept up until it's a product that its customers can buy, it only takes SHEIN sometimes as little as 7 days. So how is it able to do this? So here's how it normally works. Zara's team of designers would come up with these design concepts. Then they would brainstorm which designs to go for. Once they've decided, those designs will then be produced in their factories. And finally, they'll end up ready for their customers to buy, and this process takes around a month. Keep in mind that in the world of fashion, deciding which designs to go for is like making a bet. So brands have to think long and hard and be smart about which designs to manufacture. So that's why in SHEIN's case, in order to win, they make as many bets as possible. Instead of deciding which designs to produce, they let the customers decide for them. And so what they do is they simply upload images of designs, and they make it seem like those products have already been physically produced. Then whichever products the customers love and eventually decide to buy, that's when they have it manufactured. And so because of this, the SHEIN website adds over 1,000 new styles every day. And to compare, Zara adds over 2,000 items over a 30-day period, and that's a big gap. So do you guys see what they did there? They basically skipped the most time-consuming parts of the design process. They basically accepted the fact that, okay, hey, you know what? We can't predict what customers will want next. What if we let them predict it themselves? And so it really is possible that there may be items in their online store that may not have been physically produced yet. One article calls what SHEIN is doing as real-time retail. And what's amazing is that SHEIN has proprietary internal management software that collects real-time data about which items are hits or misses. Meaning, via its app and website, SHEIN is constantly gathering and analyzing data, using it to craft new designs. So let's say one of their items goes viral on social media. SHEIN can just ramp up production of that particular product so that it can fulfill the demand. And it's honestly pretty incredible that they can do it that fast. Basically, their business model is the literal manifestation of the whole throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks kind of idea. So I uploaded a 1-minute reel about Shein on Instagram and TikTok, and the most common comment I got was people telling me that Shein steals designs. And yes, Shein is notorious for stealing designs, especially from smaller brands and independent artists. Now, I'm gonna explain that part in more detail, so don't worry, I'm gonna talk about that part later on. Now, because of Shein's speed in terms of adding thousands of items onto their site, if you're a shopper and you happen to visit their online store, like, you would be mind blown by the tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of options for you to choose from. This is where the technology behind Shein plays its part. Based on the items that people are buying from their store, Shein can use this data to predict trends. And so basically, the more items people buy on their store, the smarter Shein's algorithm will be in predicting future trends. And this becomes an ever-improving database that will just help Shein sell even more. The reason why Shein is predominantly tech-driven, and the reason why they've embraced this unorthodox process of selecting items, all of it has its roots, and it all makes sense once you know how the company started. Chris Shu is the founder of Shein. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, just correct me at the comments below. Now take note that this guy has accepted barely any media interviews and has yet to make a public speech. And this is pretty rare for a guy whose company is valued at over $100 billion. His expertise is in search engine optimization, or SEO. SEO is the process of getting web traffic from free, organic, and natural search results, mostly on Google. SEO is a complicated thing with a lot of moving parts, but to simplify it, let's just say that if you're great at SEO, and let's say that you own a car wash business and you have a website with all the details about your car wash business, when people Google the words car wash and you're great at SEO, your car wash website should be one of the first to show up on Google search results. So yeah, this was kind of his thing. Chris owned an IT company specializing in SEO. Since he was confident in his abilities to show up on Google search results, he decided, you know what, I should sell stuff online. And so he started selling China-made wedding dresses. So he started Shein in 2008. And the reason why it's called Shein is because the first website domain of Shein was sheinside.com. The wedding dresses business, it was doing well. And Chris realized that the SEO strategy they were using was working because orders started to pile up. And they were starting to find it hard to cope with all the orders. Around 2012, since the business was doing well, he decided to take it a step further by selling all types of women's apparel. And this was also the time when they decided to take a different approach in the design process. Since they didn't have a factory yet, they simply uploaded images of the clothes. And when customers decided to buy, that's when they would buy the clothes at wholesale. This process was different, and it really wasn't the way bigger brands were doing it, but then it started to work. This is when he realized that he's onto something. He started thinking about the possibility of being able to create a global brand if this strategy worked at scale. A brand that could rival the biggest fashion brands in the world. So in 2014, from sheinside.com, he changed the name to Shein. What's amazing about Shein is their mastery of everything digital. The fact that they fully planted themselves as a digital-first brand, they understand full well how to take full advantage of the power of social media. And I have to say that even though Shein is a controversial company in so many aspects, you have to admit that their business model works. And what they've done on social media, especially on TikTok, is a masterclass. On their official Instagram and TikTok accounts, Shein has amassed more than 23 million followers. Shein's website reportedly got 160 million visitors in June 2020 alone. Their audience are composed mostly of the Gen Z group, which is basically anyone born from 1997 onwards. Now, if there's one thing that Shein is known for, is that their prices are relatively affordable. I mean, sure, quality takes a hit, but you can still get away with wearing nice outfits without breaking the bank. This is perfect for Gen Z because they may not be yet at the point where they're earning excessively. The brilliance of Shein really shows when they launch these SHEIN Hauls on TikTok. So there would be these 1-minute clips of Gen Z folks showcasing what their most recent cheap buys from Shein were. Since Shein items are really cheap, they get to try a lot of these SHEIN Hauls. And it's free word-of-mouth marketing for the brand. And I have to admit that the SHEIN hauls are actually quite addicting to watch for some reason. And so if this is the effect it has on millions of people, it's not really hard to imagine how they can get 160 million visits on their website. But okay, we all get it. Shein sells really cheap products. Shein pumps out more products than other brands do. So how do they manufacture all of this? One other thing that Shein is doing differently has to do with the types of factories they work with. Shein is known to choose smaller garment factories rather than bigger ones so that they can order smaller quantities of an item, which is really important for Shein since they are uploading thousands of new designs on their site every day. Smaller factories can require minimum order quantities of around 100 units or lower, and Shein reportedly works with over 6,000 Chinese clothing factories. The article reported that working with these smaller factories are so scrappy. Like, orders would receive the same way how you would do it when you're ordering from Facebook Marketplace or Shopee. I guess it just doesn't seem like the type of thing that a $100 billion company would do. But that's how they do it there. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's incredibly efficient. It also helps that Shein is known to have built really good relationships with these factories. If there's one thing that Shein takes care of, it's their reputation for being a good company to work with. Shein is particularly popular among the suppliers in the Chinese Pearl River Delta area, which is a large export base for Chinese-made garments. They love Shein because apparently they have a reputation for paying manufacturers on time. Apparently, it's pretty common that delays are incurred when it comes to brands paying suppliers there, so the fact that Shein pays their suppliers on time, it's a breath of fresh air for them. And so that's why they love working with Shein. There's a report from the South China Morning Post where one of these owners of the small factories that Shein works with shares what really happens. Whereas the normal practice for factories to produce around 1,000 to 2,000 pieces of clothing would usually take, let's say, a month, Shein demands that their factory only take 5 days. So the factory is supposed to create around 100 to 200 designs for Shein to choose from. And Shein doesn't care at all whether you have one designer or 10. In this case, the owner only had one designer. I mean, can you just imagine the amount of stress that this one designer is having once the demands of Shein starts coming in? The owner shared that no other brand had such detailed and demanding requests like Shein does. And that the t-shirts they produce usually end up being sold to Shein at around $3 each, and then Shein sells that same item for around $10. This leads us to another advantage that Shein has, which is location. Unlike other brands that are based abroad but have their products manufactured in China, Shein's headquarters is in China itself, in Nanjing, and it has a major office in Guangzhou, an industrial hub in China known for garment manufacturing. So its proximity to the production heartland of the world allows it to spot trends and source them faster than competitors. And it goes without saying that since Shein is based in China, that they do get a heads up as to what other brands are having made in their factories there. And so this adds to their edge. Zara has done something similar since Inditex, the company that owns Zara, is similarly closely situated to the garment factory that produces its products in Spain. But then business in China just moves much faster, and that's where Shein gets the upper hand. Now here's an interesting advantage that Shein has, it's speed or lack thereof. Amazon has been known to prioritize finding ways to make deliveries as fast as possible, which has benefited it greatly. But with Shein, since all orders come from China, most orders can take a week to arrive or even longer. But despite this, people continue to buy from Shein. And it came to a point where other brands started rethinking and reassessing their emphasis on speed. It's a given that if you want your item shipped faster, you may want to incur additional costs. And so because of Shein, other brands began to question whether they can increase profit margins by choosing slower but cheaper shipping options. And Shein also takes advantage of customs rules in the US and the deteriorating trade relations between China and the United States. In 2016, the US raised the minimum value threshold for imported goods from $200 to $800. Their intention was that they were hoping that this would help American small businesses lower import taxes. But what this ended up doing was that it allowed a higher number of shipments entering the US with no duty and after border clearance, benefiting the likes of Shein. China also waived export taxes for direct-to-consumer companies in 2018, and so Shein orders worth less than $800, which is pretty much all of their orders, remained duty-free. And so Shein managed to find a way to not pay export and import taxes for about 3 years. When you're in the business of producing thousands of designs every day, you're bound to cut a few corners. And Shein has been notorious from stealing art from artists and smaller brands. The Guardian did a profile which covered one particular incident that showed how ruthless Shein is when copying designs. Vanessa Bowman, a popular contemporary oil painter based in the UK, shared how Shein blatantly just scoured her website and social media accounts where she shares her artwork and pretty much just used those designs on shirts sold on Shein's website. She said that her art is personal to her. She would would spend her days visually capturing her back garden, the 19th century village church in the area that she lives at, and pretty much just trying to paint places around her that means something to her. And what's frustrating is that it took her years to master her craft, even coming to a point when she was commissioned by Prince Charles's Highgrove shop and the House and Garden magazines. Quoting Bowman, "The things I paint are my garden and my little village. It's my life. And they've just taken my world to China and whacked it on an acrylic jumper." And this isn't a one-off incident. Just Google it yourself and you'll find so many reports from local artists and smaller brands discovering that their art has been stolen and now on products sold by SHEIN. And the worst part is that SHEIN doesn't seem like it is willing to do anything about this. So there's this one particular artist who is one of the few people who had her design stolen but was able to have those stolen designs removed from SHEIN's website. So basically what happened was, upon seeing that her work was stolen by SHEIN, she sent them an email, which of course SHEIN didn't respond to. The only thing that made SHEIN take action was when her fans and online supporters started making noise online. SHEIN took down the stolen art and apologized. But then not long after, she discovered that 10 other artworks made by her is on SHEIN's website again. A quick Google search will reveal side-by-side proof of artists proving that their work has been ripped off by SHEIN without their permission. And what's frustrating is how helpless artists are when it comes to these things. In the article, a lawyer shared how difficult it will be to file a lawsuit against an international company. For a lot of these artists, they can't really afford to sue SHEIN, especially when you consider that in order to sue SHEIN, you have to be in a foreign court where it is based. A lot of artists have pretty much just given up and accepted that they can't really do anything about this. Perhaps the only thing you can do is to talk about it online, because that seems to be the only way to get SHEIN's attention. So yeah, I completely understand why when you mention SHEIN to some people, they either completely love it or they absolutely despise it. Even though copying designs isn't particularly unique to SHEIN because other brands seem to do it too, I guess SHEIN just takes it to a whole new level because the number of products they produce is on a scale that's unheard of before. But okay, despite the fact that SHEIN does this, why do people still love their products? What's so special about it? The stealing and copying of designs, that's not even the worst part about SHEIN. The environmental impact of fast fashion is already severe. I mean, people know the costs of fast fashion. Now, in the case of the ultra fast fashion category of SHEIN, well, you can only expect that it's much worse. Now, we can talk all day about how SHEIN created the technology, the systems, and has the geographical advantages that allow it to bring the costs down, but there is no magic to it. The only way to bring costs down is by not paying workers fairly and having little to no concern about environmental standards. Yet despite this, why do people still love it? As Gen Z begins to enter the consumer market, it is becoming more, or already maybe, one of the core target audiences of SHEIN. One thing that Gen Z is known for is that this generation is very much concerned about environmental issues and social causes. An article from Forbes mentions that the Bank of America predicts that Gen Z will be the most disruptive generation ever. And that's because they think before they buy. They're not easily influenced by those TV ads that brands run to make you teary-eyed. They hyper-analyze the products they buy. They want to know that the brands they're buying from support the causes they believe in. They're concerned about the planet's well-being, primarily because, unlike boomers who will probably pass away before the time when the climate change starts to really become something we can't ignore, Gen Z knows that they will for sure endure the consequences of everything we're doing to our planet. But here's the thing. Despite Gen Z being the most environmentally conscious generation, for some reason when it comes to fashion, a lot of them draw the line there. There's this documentary watched by DW, the German state-owned news channel, and in that video, they were interviewing a lot of Gen Z folks and they were asked whether they cared about the environment. And a lot of them said, yeah, we do care about the environment. But when they were asked why they kept buying from SHEIN, a lot of them just said that, well, SHEIN has nicely designed outfits at prices that they can afford. Most of them were still in university or maybe younger. And so buying from SHEIN seems to be the most affordable and most convenient way to dress well. When asked about how their experience was with SHEIN, they said that sometimes they would get the wrong item or they would receive an item that didn't really match what they were expecting it to look like. But instead of sending the items back, they just got rid of it. They said that most of the time, it's so cheap that it isn't really worth the hassle to have it sent back and ask for the item to be replaced. So yeah, that's kind of the problem. And SHEIN's valuation paints a terrifying picture of the future of ultra-fast fashion. Despite being a $100 billion company, SHEIN has not been transparent about their sustainability initiatives, has stayed quiet about their production and manufacturing process, and has been silent about sustainability and its environmental impact. Reuters mentioned that SHEIN has yet to disclose any information about the working conditions of its supply chain. Its website states that it does comply with fair labor standards set by international law, but as soon as Reuters asked questions about it, they removed that part on their website. In comparison, H&M's website includes a downloadable spreadsheet with the addresses of thousands of its factories. Zara includes detailed contacts as well. So the next time you buy from SHEIN, all of this is something that you have to think about first. But yeah, that's about it. Now you know about the origins of SHEIN. If you made it this far, I'd love it if you can like this video, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. I think you're also gonna love my podcast. Just search for Brand Origins on any podcast app. If you want to say hi, message me on Instagram. If you want to sponsor an episode, visit my website at chrisgarian.com. I'll catch you on the next one.